It was one of the greatest martial arts movies of the early 2000s, and the movie Jet Li wanted to be his final role as a kung fu hero. Fearless told the story of Huo Yuanjia, a Chinese folk hero who made a name for himself fighting off evil Westerners who have nothing but aggression, anger, and trample on Chinese culture. And also the evil Japanese, who also have nothing but aggression, anger, and trample on the Chinese culture. You know, the usual ingredients of a good kung fu movie. But if you actually watch the movie, the story has way more depth to it than just being a basic martial arts film. The almost slapstick fighting with the Western strongman seems comical compared to the deep emotions that the Huo Yuanjia character goes through after he loses everything and has to go on a journey of inner discovery, which takes up about a third of the film. Then, in another twist, Huo Yuanjia's actual grandson in real life, who was 81 years old at the time, sued the production company of the movie and Jet Li himself for the inaccurate portrayal of his grandfather. So what's the truth? Let's separate fact from fiction. Who was the real Huo Yuanjia? Huo Yuanjia was born in 1868 in Xiaonanhe Cun, Xiaonanhe village near Tianjin. Today the area is more like a suburb of the city itself. He came from a farming family that also practiced a type of kung fu called Mi Zong Yi, or lost track art. It is a northern long fist style which features wide stances and a variety of kicks. The main characteristic and reason for the name of the art is that it aims to confuse the opponent with unpredictable and counterintuitive movements. As a child, Huo Yuanjia suffered from asthma, and his father originally didn't want to teach him kung fu, viewing him as too weak. This is portrayed in the movie, and it seems this is the case in real life too. So he practices in secret. Eventually his family finds out and recognizes his skill, and his father takes him as a formal disciple. In a Chinese interview from 2006, Huo's great-grandson, Huo Zizheng, says this. Later, he went to Tianjin city to do trading and other types of work. Because his foundation in the martial arts was good, he would often see unfair fights on the street and lend a hand. Thus, he gradually became famous in Tianjin. Now, in the movie, they totally exaggerate this bit of fame he has into him becoming someone who is fighting constant Leitai battles and becomes the top fighter in Tianjin. A Leitai is a traditional fighting platform where martial artists would test their skills. But there weren't strict rules like with Western boxing, so you would have to sign your 生死状, or life and death certificate. Basically, it's a waiver that says you accept that you could either live or die in the fight. 生死状以前，比赛开始! In the movie, Huo Yuanjia fights like 30 different masters in Leitai battles until just one is left. After each match, he celebrates at a restaurant owned by his childhood friend, Nong Jingsun. Except in real life, it seems this person wasn't a childhood friend, but someone he met later in Tianjin. His grandson says this in the interview. In Tianjin, there was a medicine warehouse. The owner was called Nong Jingsun, and he was involved with Dr. Sun Yat-sen in planning the nationalist revolution. Huo Yuanjia and Nong Jingsun were very close friends and would help each other with things. But anyway, in the movie, Huo would drink a lot of wine with his students and not pay his bills, which kind of got his friend Jing Sun a bit impatient with him. This is where the fictional Huo Yuanjia's life starts to fall apart. The final master he hasn't challenged yet in Tianjin beats up one of his students. This is actually because the student insulted the master's concubine, but Huo's students fail to tell him this fact. They just say that he's been beaten up, so Huo thinks the student was just bullied by this master. This makes Huo very angry, and he goes and challenges the master at his friend Jing Sun's restaurant, where that master is celebrating his birthday, smashing up the whole restaurant. They did have insurance in Qing Dynasty China, didn't they? I don't know. And he then kills him with a deadly strike to the chest that seems to go right through his body and dislodge his shoulder blade. As Huo celebrates with more drinking, the godson of the dead master then goes to Huo's house and kills Huo's mother and young daughter to get revenge. When Huo finds out about this in the morning, in his hungover state, he then goes over to the home of the dead master and tries to kill his godson. But the godson commits suicide before he can do it, and then Huo almost attacks the master's wife and daughter, but manages to resist and storms off. You can see why the Huo family were kind of annoyed at this portrayal of their relative. The first part part of the movie makes him look like a complete psychotic murderer with a serious alcohol problem whose beef with other masters in Tianjin causes the death of his mother and his daughter, and the Huo family thus filed their lawsuit. You can see Huo Zizheng, the great-grandson whose interview we translated in this video, in this photo. Now, the family didn't actually win their lawsuit, and later they said that they wouldn't demand any money and they just wanted an apology from the film studio. Perhaps the producers did go a bit far in taking a real historical figure off in a completely different direction, but if you watch the film as a whole and you forget for a moment that Huo Yuanjia was a real character, this outrageous behavior at the beginning is needed to set up Huo's arc of redemption and enlightenment to the true meaning of Chinese martial arts later on. So in the movie, Huo runs off into the mountains, having lost everything. After almost drowning in a river, he's rescued by the inhabitants of a rice farming village. And in a beautiful sequence of scenes in the middle of the movie, he is thoroughly humbled and he looks within. He sees how his competitive nature causes losses for other people, yet how humble the villagers are towards him.
你看，你白天都是瞎干，月子姑姑不让我们说，她在帮你重新查。
And he enlightens to the need for martial virtue, or wude, which is how Chinese people refer to morality in the martial arts. Practicing these arts without morality just leads to endless bloodshed and suffering. Huo leaves the mountains after many years to go and pay his respects to the ancestral altar of the master he killed and to his parents' graves.
直到现在，我才真正明白，当年你在擂台上为什么不出那一拳。
And this quote is referring to a fight he sees his father have when he is young, in which his father refuses to inflict a damaging strike against an opponent whose guard is wide open, and thus the opponent takes advantage and he gets knocked off the Leitai platform and loses the match. Huo Yuanjia has finally realized that doing the right thing is more important than winning. And this whole part of the movie is just beautiful to me. Did Huo Yuanjia's grandson and great-grandson walk out before this part started or something? It really provides redemption for the character and displays traditional qualities of Chinese culture. You can totally see why Jet Li wanted this to be his final wushu film. There's a lot of inner meaning to it. But just so you know, none of this happened, okay? This is a totally fictional part of the movie. It's great, but it's fictional. So let's get into some stuff that actually did happen. Kind of. Huo Yuanjia accepting challenges and defeating foreign fighters. But first, we have noticed that 90% of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed. So if you like what we do and want to see more, do subscribe. It's free, and we're going to have loads more videos on Kung Fu masters from Chinese history. All right, let's go on to these foreign fighters.
He wants to kick your butt.
Come on!
In the movie, we see one strongman named Hercules O'Brien, and then 4 other fighters, 3 Western ones and 1 Japanese. Here is what Huo's great-grandson said about the challenges from foreign fighters. At that time, there was a Russian strongman named Kalov, I think he means the Russian name Kalov, who was saying crazy things. He looked down on Chinese people. After Huo Yuanjia heard about this, he was very angry. He said, "I'm a Chinese person, do you dare to challenge me?" As a result, the Russian strongman begged for mercy, saying he was just selling his art and it was just to earn money to support him and his family. So Huo Yuanjia said that he'd better publish an apology in the newspaper, and the Russian strongman really did just that. So that's the first of 2 that he talks about. And bear in mind, this is his family member saying this, so, you know, there may be a little bit of a tendency to bend the truth in the great-grandfather's favor. The Russian begged for mercy. But, you know, however it went down, it seems that the fight never happened because the Russian backed down. Here is what his great-grandson says about the next foreign challenger. In 1909, a British strongman named O'Brien had arranged a Leitai platform in Shanghai. Huo Yuanjia took Liu Zhengsheng and Zhang Wenda, 2 of his students, with him. O'Brien had a lot of conditions for the match. For example, no finger strikes, foot hooks, you had to use boxing techniques, etc. Huo Yuanjia agreed, saying that as long as you're willing to fight me, it's okay, but in the end, O'Brien still ran away. So this is the guy you see in the movie, Hercules O'Brien. I doubt in real life he had the name Hercules, probably just someone O'Brien. And it seems in real life he was British too. In the movie they made him American. And again, in real life, the fight didn't happen because he backed out. I like how in the movie version though, they have O'Brien get humbled by Huo Yuanjia's actions when he saves him from getting his head impaled on nails, and he bows and awkwardly says 谢谢, acknowledging Huo as the winner. Now, this happened in Shanghai, both in real life and in the movie, and in both real life and in the movie, Huo Yuanjia stays in Shanghai to found the Jingwu Tiyuhui, or the Jingwu Athletic Association. In the movie, it is Huo's friend Nong Jingsun who gives Huo the funds to start the association. In real life, his grandson says that it was another man named Chen Qimei. Alright, now let's talk about how Huo dies, because this part is actually really sad. He died in 1910 at age 42, just a couple of months after the founding of the Jingwu Association. In the movie, the Japanese poison him with poisoned tea while he is fighting their champion. You see, the Japanese and other foreigners in Shanghai have placed bets against Huo, so they need him to lose. The cool thing is that in the movie, they make the Japanese fighter actually into an honorable guy. He wants to stop the match when he realizes what the Japanese organizers have done. But Huo chooses to go on, knowing he is going to die anyway, and he uses the same move that he used to kill the master in Nong Jingsun's restaurant early in the movie, but the difference this time is that, like his father before him, he holds back the punch, just lightly touching the Japanese fighter's clothes, before he collapses and dies. It's kind of the honorable way for the movie version of Huo Yuanjia to bow out. Since he had caused so much pain to other people earlier in his life, even though he'd kind of redeemed himself, he still owes a massive debt to a lot of people. This way, he defends China's honor fighting off those foreign fighters, leaves a legacy through his Jingwu Association, and then he moves on to his next life where he probably will have to repay his karmic debt. But again, that is the fictional version. In real life, he wasn't a psychopath who later redeemed himself. He was probably just a genuinely good guy all along. Huo family, please don't sue me. So how did it go down in real life? Well, he was poisoned, and it apparently was by the Japanese. Here is how his great-grandson says it went down. Not long after the Jingwu school was set up, the Japanese Judo Association challenged Huo Yuanjia, and Huo Yuanjia's student went and broke the arm of their ringleader. The Japanese held a grudge and said they must eliminate Huo Yuanjia. On the surface, they were on friendly terms with Huo Yuanjia, but they took advantage of one time when Huo had a cough, taking him to a Japanese hospital, and it didn't end well. After he came out of the hospital, he developed an incurable illness. 70 days after the founding of the Jingwu school, Huo Yuanjia died. His students took the medicine that he was taking to be analyzed and discovered that it was a drug that damages the lungs. So according to his family, Huo Yuanjia was killed by the Japanese, and it is this that provided the inspiration for the Bruce Lee movie Fist of Fury, which is called Jingwu Men, or the Jingwu School in Chinese. In the movie, the fictional character Chen Zhen, played by Bruce Lee, is a student of Huo Yuanjia who has died. Chen discovers in the movie that he was poisoned by the Japanese, and you get to see Bruce Lee beat up an entire Japanese dojo. Then there is a loose remake from 1994 called Fist of Legend, or Jingwu Yingxiong, Jingwu Hero in Chinese, that stars none other than Jet Li. It basically tells a very similar story where Huo Yuanjia is poisoned. Although in this version, Chen Zhen has a Japanese girlfriend, so it kind of softens the anti-Japanese vibe of the movie. And I kind of like that about Jet Li. In both these movies where the Japanese do some bad things, he includes both positive and negative Japanese characters to show that they are human beings and the actions of a few people don't represent an entire race. And this fits in well with Jet Li's whole vibe. He is, after all, a Buddhist, and you can see that he tries to bring some deeper messages into his movies. Huo Yuanjia really carries some of the profound themes of traditional Chinese culture, such as humbleness, accepting defeat when winning would cause unreasonable harm, and in general, martial virtue, or wu de. Even though it is very far from the story of Huo Yuanjia's actual life, it is a great fictional adaptation of one of the greatest folk heroes in recent Chinese history. So guys, that is the story of Huo Yuanjia, both factual and fictional versions. If you want to watch the whole movie, it is available to rent or buy on YouTube. And if you're interested in Chinese culture and performing arts, why not check out Shenyun Performing Arts, the sponsor of today's video, and the group that I consider to be the top Chinese performing arts company in the world. They tell stories of myths and legends from Chinese history on stage and specialize in showing you China before communism, which If you know anything about China, communism destroyed a lot of the culture during the Cultural Revolution. They are the only company in the world with a specific mission to revive Chinese culture and present it at this highly professional level, and they are currently on a world tour. Click the link below to watch the trailer, and if you do end up buying a ticket, use our code LCN2025 for a waived booking fee on all US show dates. Alright guys, please subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.